Everyone agreed that Daniel was a boring husband. He spoke softly, dressed plainly, and lived his life like a man afraid of taking up space. Clara married him because he was kind, dependable, and safe. Love, she thought, was something loud, something she had already missed out on. What she felt for Daniel was comfort, not passion. She didn't realize how wrong she was. Until the day Daniel died. On the night it happened, she was angry with him over something small, how he reminded her to lock the door, how he double-checked the gas, how careful he always was. Relax, she snapped. You act like something bad is always about to happen. He smiled softly. I just want you safe. They were crossing the street when it happened. A scream. Tires. Chaos. He didn't hesitate. Daniel shoved her out of the way. She hit the ground hard, confused, embarrassed, ready to yell at him. Then she saw him fall. Blood spread fast. Too fast. She crawled to him, hands shaking, calling his name like it was the only word she knew. I'm here, he whispered, breath breaking. You're okay. That's what matters. She held his face, finally noticing everything she had ignored, the strength in his hands, the calm in his eyes, the love that had never demanded anything back. Don't do this, she sobbed. Please. I need you. His thumb brushed her cheek, wiping tears like he had done 100 quiet times before. I know, he said. I always knew. When the sirens came, it was already too late. He was already gone. At the funeral, people spoke of his kindness, his reliability, his calm words. She had once mistaken for emptiness. Now the house was unbearably loud without him. The folded shirts. The locked doors. The way he had loved her in advance, protecting her from a future that didn't include him. That night when Clara went to sleep, her pillow was soaked through with tears. She didn't ask God for miracles anymore. She didn't bargain. She didn't scream. She simply whispered, broken and small. Please, just one more chance. I will love him like nothing else matters. As the last tear fell from her eyes, she drifted off to sleep. Morning came. Clara stirred, expecting the familiar ache in her chest, the heavy absence that had settled there since Daniel died. Instead, she felt warmth. An arm draped over her waist. The steady rhythm of breathing behind her. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She turned slowly. Daniel lay beside her, asleep on his side, hair slightly messy, face calm and unbothered. His chest rose and fell like it had done every morning for years. She screamed. Daniel jolted awake. Clara. What's wrong? She touched his face, his skin was warm. Real. Alive. She pulled back, shaking, laughter and sobs colliding in her throat. I just had a bad dream. He frowned, concerned. You're crying. She covered her mouth, nodding, afraid that if she spoke he might disappear. At first, she convinced herself it was a dream. But that was until she checked her phone. The date was wrong. A full year before the accident. The car that killed him had not yet existed in her life. The argument, the street, the scream, none of it had happened yet. God had answered her cry. Clara spent the day watching Daniel like he was made of glass. The way he tied his shoes. The way he hummed while making coffee. The way he reminded her, softly, never demanding, to eat breakfast. Every small habit she had once rolled her eyes at now felt sacred. She didn't rush him anymore. Didn't snap. Didn't sigh when he was careful. Instead, she just watched, cherishing the moment as if it would fade away. Held his hand in public. Listened. Daniel noticed. You're different, he said one evening. smiling but uncertain. Did I do something right? She swallowed hard. You always did. This time Clara was determined to do things differently, so she didn't make excuses this time. When Daniel mentioned visiting his parents on the weekend, she didn't tense up or change the subject like she had the year before. Back then, every visit ended the same way, with gentle smiles that hit sharp questions about babies, timelines, and God's plan. She had refused to go, claiming headaches and deadlines. This time, she picked out a dress and took Daniel's hand. He noticed immediately. You sure? He asked in the car, glancing at her. We can turn back if you want. Clara squeezed his fingers. No. I want to be there. With you. Daniel's parents' house smelled of old books and fresh tea. His mother hugged Clara a little too long, eyes scanning her like she always did. His father nodded politely, already preparing his usual speech. It didn't take long. So, his mother began carefully, setting cups on the table. Have you two thought any more about expanding the family? Before, Clara had smiled tightly and gone quiet, letting Daniel answer alone. This time, she spoke. We have, she said calmly. And when the time is right, it will happen. But until then, we are happy. We are healthy. And Daniel is enough for me. The room fell silent. Daniel turned to her, startled. She reached for his hand openly, anchoring him. His mother blinked, surprised. His father cleared his throat. Well, he said slowly, as long as you're both at peace. That's when door opened again. Daniel stiffened. His older brother, Marcus, walked in first, tall, loud, confidence worn like armor. His wife Mimi followed, perfectly put together, her smile sharp and rehearsed. Well, look who finally came together, Marcus said, clapping Daniel on the shoulder a little too hard. Didn't think you'd drag Clara along this time. If it was last time, Clara would have laughed it off. She would have made herself small, excused herself to the kitchen, let Marcus fill the room while Daniel faded into the background. But this time, she didn't move. She met Marcus's eyes calmly. Why do I need permission to come home with my husband? Marcus raised a brow. That's not what I meant. Dinner was tense. Marcus talked over Daniel, corrected him, retold his stories louder and better. His wife nodded along, glancing at Clara with polite curiosity. Clara watched it all, the way Daniel's shoulders tightened, the way his voice softened when he spoke, like he was asking permission to exist. Something hardened in her chest. When Marcus interrupted Daniel mid-sentence for the third time, Clara set her fork down. Daniel was speaking, she said simply. The table went still. Marcus laughed awkwardly. Relax. I was just... He doesn't need translating, Clara said, her voice calm but firm. We all heard him. Daniel stared at her, stunned. His mother cleared her throat, pretending to adjust the tablecloth. His father avoided Marcus's eyes. As the evening wound down, his mother began the familiar routine. It's getting late. You two must be tired. You can head home. Before, Clara would have already been reaching for her bag. This time, she smiled. Actually, she said, shocking even herself, we'd like to stay over. Silence. Marcus blinked. You. Staying. Clara nodded. Yes. If that's okay. His mother hesitated, then smiled slowly. Of course. We'll prepare the guest room. Daniel leaned close, whispering, You okay? She smiled at him softly. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. That night, when they finally closed the bedroom door, the house felt unusually quiet. Normally, Clara would keep to her side of the bed, careful, distant, to avoid any unnecessary interactions to her sleep. She would lie stiffly on her back or curl away, as though intimacy was something fragile that might break if touched too suddenly. This time, she didn't. She slipped onto his side of the bed instead, sitting close enough that her knee brushed his thigh. The movement was deliberate, unhurried, an invitation she didn't put into words. Daniel paused. He lay down on the other side, facing away from her, pretending not to notice. But the air between them had changed. It felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. Clara leaned closer. She kissed just below his ear, soft and lingering. Daniel inhaled sharply and turned to face her, surprise written plainly across his face. "Clara, are you sure?" She didn't answer. She kissed him, gentle at first, then deeper, pouring into it everything she had once withheld. Daniel hesitated only a second longer. Then he kissed her back. The years of quiet restraint, of patience mistaken for indifference, melted away. He pulled her closer, careful but certain now, as though he finally understood that this wasn't impulse, it was choice. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. That night they remained together as everything blurred away. The following morning, Clara woke up feeling like a hurricane had passed through her body. Every muscle ached. Her head throbbed. But she smiled into the pillow because that didn't matter. The night before had felt like something borrowed from another life, amazing, intentional, unforgettable. For once, she didn't rush out of bed. They packed and prepared to head home later that morning. As they drove, Clara remembered something suddenly. "That's today," she said. Daniel glanced at her. "What is?" "My company's anniversary dinner." She hesitated for just a moment before adding, "You don't have to come if you're tired." Daniel smiled. "I want to. If you'll have me." Her heart warmed. "I'd love that." They agreed he would come later, straight from home, while she went ahead to prepare. That evening, Clara arrived at the venue in an elegant red dress, confident, glowing, alive in a way she hadn't been in years. She kept checking her phone. No messages. 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. Worry began to creep in. What if something happened? The thought tightened her chest. Her colleagues noticed. "So where's your husband?" someone teased lightly. "The famous boring husband," another joked, laughing. Did he forget? Before, those jokes had embarrassed her. She had laughed along, pretending they didn't sting. This year, she said nothing. She simply waited. Then the doors opened. Daniel walked in. No glasses. His hair free, slightly tousled. Shoulders back. Posture confident. The room shifted. Heads turned. Conversations paused. If Clara hadn't been standing there, she wouldn't have believed it herself. She stared at him, stunned. She had lived with this man for years and never truly seen him. He wasn't boring. He was breathtaking. Daniel's eyes found hers immediately, and he smiled, the kind of smile that said, "I'm here." He walked toward her, steady and unhurried, and when he reached her, he held out his hand. "May I?" They danced. Not awkwardly. Not stiffly. They moved like two people finally in sync, laughter soft between them, eyes locked as if the room no longer existed. They became the attraction of the night without trying. For the first time, Clara felt proud in a way that reached her bones. She introduced him to everyone. "This is my husband, Daniel," she said, to her bosses, her colleagues, even her juniors, her voice full, her eyes shining. Each time she said it, she squeezed his hand like she was anchoring him to the world. Daniel, once invisible, stood tall beside her. And Clara realized something terrifying and beautiful all at once. She had lost this man without ever knowing how extraordinary he was. The week passed since the anniversary. Clara's life felt like a dream she was afraid to wake up from. Their home felt warmer. Laughter came easier. Daniel cooked while humming, kissed her forehead before leaving rooms, held her waist like it was instinct. Every day felt borrowed and blessed. Then the doorbell rang. Clara opened it to a woman who looked like she belonged on magazine covers. She was tall, polished, effortlessly beautiful. Her smile was confident, almost entitled. "Daniel," the woman said brightly, peering past Clara. "I knew this was the address." Daniel froze when he saw her. "Rachel," he said, genuinely surprised. "Wow, it's been years." She laughed and stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him in a hug that lingered too long. Clara noticed how she pressed herself close, how her hand rested where it didn't belong. "I was in town," Rachel said, eyes flicking to Clara briefly. "Thought I'd look you up." Introductions were made, though Rachel barely acknowledged Clara after that. They sat. Rachel talked about school days, inside jokes, memories Clara wasn't part of. She laughed too loudly, touched Daniel's arm too often. It was subtle, but deliberate. Halfway through, Daniel stood. "I forgot something in the car. I'll be right back." The door closed. Silence settled. Rachel's smile shifted. "So," she said, crossing her legs slowly, eyes assessing Clara. "You're the wife." Clara nodded calmly. Rachel tilted her head. "You know, Daniel was always too good for ordinary people." Clara said nothing. Just staring at her. Rachel leaned forward. "If you ever feel tired of pretending, of playing house, I'd be happy to take him off your hands." Clara smiled. Not weakly. Not nervously. She stood, walked closer, and met Rachel's steady gaze. "You don't know him, but I do," she said softly. "I know his silences, his patience, his kindness. I love him in ways you could never reach. That's why I'm his wife," she continued. "So why don't you run along to your magazine cover and leave my husband to me?" Rachel's confident smile faltered. At that moment, Daniel returned, keys in hand, stunned by Clara's words. He didn't need to ask anything, he understood. Rachel stood there just shocked. She wasn't expecting this kind of response. She awkwardly took her bag and left. Later that night, Clara rushed to the bathroom, barely making it before she threw up. Daniel followed immediately, worry etched deep into his face. He knelt beside her, holding her hair back, rubbing slow circles on her back. "Hey, what's wrong? Are you okay?" She tried to answer but couldn't. When it passed, she leaned weakly against him, shaken. "I'll take you to the hospital," Daniel said, already reaching for his phone. "Now." At the clinic, Daniel paced while Clara sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap, heart racing. When the doctor entered and smiled, Daniel froze. "Congratulations," the doctor said gently. "Your wife is pregnant." The words hung in the air. Daniel stared, breath stolen, then laughed, a soft, disbelieving sound, before pulling Clara into his arms. We're having a baby," he whispered. Clara nodded, tears spilling freely now. "Yes." In that moment, gratitude crashed over her like a wave. Just a few months ago, she had stood beside his grave, empty and broken. Now, she stood beside him again, alive, chosen, and carrying a new life. On the drive home, Daniel kept glancing at her, smiling like he was afraid she might disappear. In the car, Clara lay awake listening to his breathing, one hand resting over her stomach. The other tangled in his fingers. She whispered a promise into the dark. "I will never take this life for granted." again. Not the quiet mornings. Not the careful love. Not the man who sat beside her, alive and real. She had been given a second chance. And this time, she would honor it with everything she had.